G'day runners, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Russ, a 2:43 and soon to be 2:39 marathon runner, and your one-stop shop for all things running. So you've decided you want to run a marathon. Maybe it's been on your bucket list for years, or maybe you got inspired watching a race and thought, I want to do that. But now you're thinking, where do I even start? Don't worry, I've got you. Today we're diving into Marathon Training 101. I'm going to break down the basics so you know exactly how to tackle your training and what it will take to achieve that time that you're looking for. We're going to break it down into 4 simple blocks: the base, the build, the peak, and the race phase. So whether it's your first marathon or you're a seasoned marathon runner, you're going to come away knowing exactly how to structure your training. We're going to look at 14 weeks of total training for your marathon build. So figure out the day of your marathon, work backwards so that you know exactly what day to start on. So stage 1 is the base phase. Now what is it? The first stage could almost pass as close to your normal maintenance running for some of you. Base phase is all about building your aerobic capacity. Basically that's getting your body used to running consistently without overloading it. Think of it as laying the foundations for a house. Without a solid base, the rest of your training is going to crumble. We're aiming to get up to between 50 to 60 kilometres, about 30, 37 miles a week, depending on how much time you can commit over the 4-week period. Now what's to focus on? The first thing is your easy runs. Most of your running should be at a conversational pace. That means you'll be slow enough for you to talk, but fast enough to know that you're working. And we're aiming around zone 2 running, so if you're able to hold a conversation, you're working to just about the right effort level. Long runs. Start building up your long run gradually. Aim for 12 kilometres, about 8 miles or so, and build a couple of kilometres or a mile each week. So you're hitting around the 18 kilometres, about 11 miles come the end of the 4 weeks. Strength training. Yeah, even in the base phase, focus on core work to begin with. So stuff like squats, lunges, deadlifts. 1 session a week will build resilience. 2 sessions will help prevent injury. Frequency. So we're looking between 4 to 6 runs a week, and that's going to stay consistent throughout the entire training block. But we're just clocking consistent mileage in this phase. Gear. This is where your everyday training shoe will do just fine. Something comfortable, stable, a workhorse type shoe that will allow you to get started, but something that you'll stick with for the rest of the block. You're looking at something like a Nike Pegasus at the entry level. Nothing special, very solid, comfortable, they'll do plenty of miles in. Or if you're an absolute baller and you want to go all out, get yourself a pair of these Asics Super Blasts. You won't regret it. So top tip, don't worry about speed right now. The goal here is just getting time on your feet and creating that running habit. You can structure your week at this point to fit around your schedule without having to make too many sacrifices. Although it's pretty much a given in marathon world, Sunday mornings are long run mornings. You know you hear and you see those people out running on a Sunday come rain or shine. Yep, that's us. That's marathon runners doing their Sunday longie. Stage 2, so the build phase. Now what is it? So you've spent the first 4 weeks increasing your mileage, getting time on your feet, getting that all under your belt. Now that you've got a base, it's time to build on it. This phase increases your mileage, adds more structure, and starts to introduce harder workouts. We're aiming for between 60 kilometres, about 37 miles, and 75 kilometres, about 47 miles in this phase over the next 4 weeks. So what are you going to focus on here? Firstly, tempo runs. Now these are steady efforts just outside your comfort zone, great for improving your threshold and your mental toughness. Interval sessions, this is where you're really pushing your VO2 max. Repeated high intensity efforts with a recovery period to build that speed, strength and aerobic capacity. Long runs, again, you're always going to focus on long runs. Gradually build your long runs from 18 kilometres, so about 11 miles, to 25 kilometres, which is about 15 miles, and that will continue to help with building your endurance. Midweek mileage, so your runs throughout the week. Sometimes this can be seen as a bit of junk miles, but if you can add more steady efforts, you'll help build strength and build more endurance. Strength training. Shift to more running specific strength work. So stuff like single leg exercises, glute bridges, Bulgarian split squats, and try and lift heavier. That will help boost your power and efficiency. Frequency. How I would be focusing is like this. Monday is always my rest day. Tuesday I'll do intervals. Wednesday will be an easy recovery. Thursday I'll have a tempo run. Friday another easy recovery after that. Saturday another easy run, and then Sunday your longie. Now a top tip for this part of your training block is it's probably time to start introducing your race day shoe. We don't want to burn through them because they're expensive and they cost a lot per kilometre, but it's probably a good time to start bringing in those shoes just to get used to them, probably for 1 or 2 of your interval sessions, or maybe even one of your threshold sessions as well. So the peak phase, what is it? Now this is the toughest part of your training and where things get serious. It's where you're pushing your longest runs and your toughest workouts. It's all about simulating marathon conditions without burning out. And it's the time where you're going to need to dedicate the most amount of commitment that you can. The final and hardest 4 weeks of the block, we're aiming to get to around 75 to 90 kilometers. It's between 45 and 55 miles, more if you can. And what you're going to focus on? Again, your long runs. So building up from about 25 kilometers, about 15 miles, to 35k, it's about 22 miles. And that will be peaking about 3 weeks before race day. Race pace efforts, adding marathon pace miles into your long runs to dial in your goal pace. Perhaps 2 times 4 kilometers at race pace with a 1 kilometer float and recovery, something like that. High mileage weeks, you're at your maximum volume here, anywhere from 70 to 90 kilometers a week, depending on your experience. Strength maintenance, reduce your strength work to once a week and focus now more on mobility and injury prevention. Get on the foam roller, stretching out, that type of stuff. Now, a top tip is try to minimize and plan for this block. It's going to be the most intense training period that most runners will experience. So minimizing distractions and freeing up as much time as possible is pretty key. So we're finally into stage 4, the taper. Now what is it? It's the time where you're going to let your body recover and store up all the fitness that you've built. The hard work's done, it's in the bank, now it's time to recover and rebuild that battered body for race day. So what to focus on? Cutting your mileage. So we want to cut our mileage by about 30% from your peak race week in week 13. So that's about 2 weeks prior to the race. And your long run in that week's going to be about 20 kilometers, so about 12 miles. Then we're going to cut by 70% in week 14, so the week before the race, where your long run should be getting to around 12 kilometers, so about 8 miles. Stay sharp, shorter runs with a few race pace efforts. Don't just stop running. Keep up the intensity, but drop the mileage. Visualize race day, the course, the crowd, how you're going to feel crossing that finish line. It can become quite overwhelming, so if you've got a preconceived idea of how it's going to be, it will help you cope with it better on race day. My top tip is trust the process. You might feel restless, but that's the taper magic working. We have what's called taper tantrums, and they're really common. It's basically your body recovering, reducing all the inflammation and repairing the micro tears that you've accumulated over the weeks. Your body's repairing, trust it, and don't fret. So here are my personal bonus tips for marathon training success. Number 1, and the most important, is listen to your body. If you're feeling niggles or really extreme fatigue, rest is always better than pushing through. Don't be a hero. A lot of us will have the tendency to try to push through, but it's really important that you listen if you have a little niggle. Now, you're naturally going to lose weight over this training block, purely down to the amount of calories that you're burning. So don't ever worry about eating too much. When it comes to your long runs, make sure you fuel properly. Practice taking in gels, electrolytes, and water during those long runs. Sleep. Now, sleep is something that's super important to me personally. I try and get around 8 hours of sleep a night, just in general. But during the training block, and especially towards the end, I'll definitely try to up that to around 9 hours or so. The more you can sleep, the better. Listen again to your body. Sleep is the number 1 thing for your recovery, so don't underestimate it. Strength is speed, so don't skip strength training. It's a secret weapon for building a stronger, faster, injury-free runner. Trust me, I hate it, but it is the number 1 thing I find that helps me keep everything ticking over and in shape. So please, 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 if there's one thing from me, make sure you stick to doing some strength training. Consistency. So consistency is king. It's not about having one heroic workout. It's about stacking weeks and weeks and weeks of consistent training on top of each other. And of course, have fun. Celebrate the small wins. Every long run, treat yourself to a coffee or breakfast afterwards. Every new distance, you're building something amazing, and it's going to be so worth it. And that's it. Marathon training broken down into 4 key phases: the base, the build, the peak, and the race phase. If you stick to the plan, stay patient, and listen to your body, you'll be in a fantastic place come race day. If you found this helpful, give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more running tips and training advice. Drop me a comment below. What marathon are you training for? I'm personally training for the Gold Coast Marathon come July. I'm also going to be doing Sydney in September, and I'm going to be doing Melbourne in October. Thanks for watching. Ta-ra.